Let's turn now to the Reserve Bank, who this afternoon decided to again lift the official cash rate from 2.8 to 3.1%. That's an increase of 25 basis points, the RBA's eighth consecutive rate rise this year. Joining me now, News Corp's business commentator, economist himself, Terry McCrann. Eighth rate rise, consecutive eighth rate rise. How the markets reacted? What do you make of the decision, Terry?
Well, Peter, this decision was actually made a month ago on Cup Day. When the Reserve Bank decided to deliver 25 points on Cup Day, it more or less locked in this decision, absent some freak outcome between then and now. It could hardly then backtrack to the 50 points it was doing earlier in the year. That would have really been a blockbuster disaster for Christmas. Nor could it go for zero, because that would be saying effectively the inflation fight is over, we can all relax, spend up big at Christmas. 2023 can be a gangbuster year. So the 25 points was where it was going to be, come in the wake of what it did in November. Having said that, we've now got 2 months to go to the next decision in February, and that right now, Philip Lowe would be thinking, my decision then will be somewhere between another 25 points or finally delivering a pause if things start to look good on the inflation front. We're going to get a bad inflation number for the December year. He said it, that it's around 8%, but he's really looking for signs that that's the top of inflation and it's going to start to come down. But there's a lot of water to flow under the bridge, both here and globally, between now and the end of January. So it's really an open question where we will we come back for the new year.
Yeah, well, so the question is, we're all going to go to Christmas and spend up. Do we spend up big or do we spend up not so big? That will determine where inflation sits, and that will determine next year if we have a rate rise. But of course, you've got the government out there talking, certainly at state level, and Andrew Clennell was musing that we might see something in New South Wales, talking about putting subsidies out there for consumers on their power bills. Won't that drive inflation?
Well, it won't drive inflation. It might actually mute it as far as the statistics say. I mean, particularly if you deliver that subsidy by actually delivering a low price, whether you give the money directly to the consumer or whether you give the money to the power company to mute their price rises. But there's no real sign, Peter, of consumers turning off their spending. I mean, the interest rate rises have been significant, but the people that they really hurt are those that have entered new loans as first home buyers, people who've cashed in huge capital profits on earlier properties and then got the free money at the very low interest rates, are really quite comfortably absorbing these interest rate rises. They don't like them, obviously, but they're not that painful. It's only a small section of the borrowers, those that are first home borrowers, and those that took variable rate loans. A lot of those first home borrowers who are on fixed rates, their pain will come through the end of next year and into 2024. So right now, the rate rises look brutal, but they haven't really had a big impact on spending.
Help me understand then, if government puts out money, cash splashes, we saw that in the GFC with the Rudd era, spending up big, and there goes the Costello surplus, the Howard Costello surplus, that was inflationary. Why is a subsidy for your power bill not inflationary?
Well, it's a bad decision, Peter. I mean, it wouldn't be inflationary in the narrow sense if they gave the subsidy to the power companies to not have the price rises, because inflation would reflect what their price rises are. But it's a bad decision because
hang on. Let me jump in there. So it's not money to not money to consumers per se.
Well, it depends.
The taxpayer would subsidise these energy companies.
Well, exactly. Indirectly subsidising the consumer. Now, if they give the money directly to the consumer, as you say, the consumer gets to spend it. It means that they are able to spend their own money into the broader economy, and that will not necessarily be directly inflationary, but will certainly drive demand. And what the Reserve Bank is trying to do is to cut back on demand brutally. It's a brutal way to attack inflation, but the way to cut back on inflation is to cut back on consumer demand. And that's what it's trying to do. So what you say, if the government gave consumers subsidies directly, that would mute the Reserve Bank's effectiveness and therefore indirectly mean that the Reserve Bank would have to have bigger rate rises in the first half of 2023 than it currently intends.
None of it's good news, Terry McCrann. Got to leave it there. It's all bad on every front, and we've got energy, of course, at National Cabinet on Friday.
It's challenging, Pete. It's challenging.
Challenging. There you go. That's the statesman.